A recent USA Today piece leans on a Go Banking Rate study to claim how long 1.5 million will last in retirement in every state, even spotlighting popular retiree states such as Florida or Arizona. Our goal in this episode today is to replace quickie averages with a plan you can actually live on. So let's get ready to make retirement great.
Headlines love a clean, clickbaity title. $1.5 million. How long will it last in every state? It fails to recognize there's a big difference between Albany and New York City. It fails to recognize that rural Southwest Virginia, maybe they don't need as much as Washington, D.C.
No.
But in advertising, they don't care.
Yeah.
$1.5 million in every state. But we all get sucked into these things. I get sucked into things all the time. Articles will catch my attention and I've got to click it. And you're the same way if you're out there. If you're thinking about retirement, these articles, they know who you are. They know that if you're close to retirement, it doesn't matter if you have 1.5 million. If you have one, if you have 400,000, if you have 3 million, they know you're going to click on it because they're going to know that, hey, if I've got $700,000, oh man, if 1.5 million is going to run out in 10 years or 20 years, I'm in big trouble.
Right.
Whereas if somebody has $3 million, they say, well, if it lasts 20, it'll last 40 for me. Come on now.
Yeah.
Do you believe this stuff, Casey? Do you just take it with a grain of salt?
I definitely take it with a grain of salt. I think that averages can be a little silly sometimes because we're not averages, and I think it's hard to take into context how 1.5 can fit every single person for an exact time period. I think it's very individualized and it needs to be broken down a little bit further.
Oh, way further.
Yeah.
Way further because we're all different.
Absolutely.
We spend money in different ways. We have different value systems. We're different ages. We have different health. We live in different houses. We have different tax rates. There's so many moving parts around this. This is why I absolutely despise these kind of articles. I really do. But I still click on them.
Yeah.
I'm still guilty. I'm still completely guilty.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to break down, I think, the 5 things you need to know or at least ask yourself to figure out how long your money's going to last.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why this is important is get rid of this nonsense that you need a certain dollar amount to retire. Everybody's different. You are not cookie cutters. You are not meant to be cut. You are there to figure this out and then use your own situation to determine it. So what's number 1 on our list? What's the first thing you're going to need to know before you retire to know that you have enough?
Yeah. So the first thing that you need to know is how much do you personally need? So what dollar figure do you need to maintain your standard of living? So your interior expenses such as your housing, your transportation, your clothing, and then that extra fun money. Everybody has a different number. Yours is different from mine, I'm sure. So you need to start there and really evaluate what you need.
Think about a pyramid, right? So if you drew a pyramid, think about at the very bottom of that pyramid is foundational expenses.
Right.
Foundational expenses are going to be housing, insurances, food. And I had a woman tell me one time, getting their hair colored. Like I told her that was discretionary and she's like, no, honey. She looked at me. She said, no, honey, that is a required expense. I said, yes, ma'am. So
We're educated.
I am not there to argue. I am there to help. So figure out what that is for you. And then the next one is discretionary. All the fun stuff.
Yeah.
I always tell people this is what makes retiring worth retiring for.
Right. It's the hopes and the dreams that you've kind of put to the side.
Yeah. And if you have enough after you figure all that, the next bucket at the very top is your legacy or your giving.
Right.
You're giving to your family, to your church, to charity, whatever. And again, you figure all this stuff out. Right? That's how you figure out the need.
Yeah. And then from there, once you've figured out what you need, you have to see what you have. So combine all the retirement funds that you have and see where you stand. From there, you have to figure out the gap and how to fill that gap of the income need that you're going to need in retirement.
When you're going to figure out the have, start with adding your guaranteed income sources first. Social securities, pensions, right? And then figure out your maybe income. And I'm not saying maybe income is bad, but stock dividends are maybe sometimes.
Right.
They're not guaranteed. Maybe your U.S. Treasury bonds are go into the guaranteed. So figure out your guaranteed, your maybe income, and then take your need, take your have, and figure out if you have a gap.
Right.
And then when you have your gap, then we have to figure out how do we fill the gap up. And that's a really difficult one for a lot of people. I think that's where it gets really confusing.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of elements that factor into this, like inflation. Okay, so let's imagine we do the math. We need $5,000 a month. We have $6,000 a month.
Right.
That sounds really good, right?
Yeah.
Good today,
Yeah.
but what about good tomorrow?
Not as good.
Not as good,
Yeah.
unless your income is growing.
Right.
Now, if you have growing income over time, that can be really useful. So what we have to do is once we've added all those numbers up, then we use our investments to fill that gap.
Right.
And for some people, they have plenty of investment dollars to fill that gap
Mhm.
and then some.
Right.
And then other people, they have some decisions to make.
Yeah.
And there's some levers you can pull here,
Yeah.
but there's not many. You can work longer, you can save more, or you can spend less.
Yeah, those are typically the 3 levers that you can pull.
And you've got to figure that out.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that you have to do that. But when you're at the gap, you've got to spend the time and the energy to figure out how do you fill that. Because again, most people can retire on a really small amount of money, but that doesn't mean they're going to retire well.
Right.
And I think that's really where the kickoff point is trying to figure out what kind of life do you want in retirement?
Mhm.
And we hear this. We hear people ask for a lot of different kinds of things. What are some of the crazy things people want to do in retirement?
I mean, we hear a lot of some outlandish traveling, which I understand a lot of people wanna see the world. You're a traveler, so
I am. I do outlandish travel. By the way, outlandish travel in Casey's world is like going an hour away. Okay. So it's traveling an hour or two. But for the rest of us, going to Florida on vacation is not outlandish. So I think
I've
everybody's
never been to
different.
Florida, so that is outlandish to me.
Everybody's different.
Everybody's different.
Yep.
So we have people that wanna take 4 to 5 cruises a year, or there's people that wanna take a month-long biking trip in Europe. We've heard it all. There's so many things that people wanna do.
And it's fascinating. It's a lot of it's actually this is one of the fun parts of our profession is hearing all of the hopes and dreams and desires of our clients. And they have so many cool things. We have two clients that love to bike. We need to connect them somehow, some way,
Yeah.
sometime. But like some of them bike in Europe, the other ones do biking all across the United States, which is not what I want to do.
Me
I
either.
do like to bike, but after about 10 miles, I'm like, all right, cool. What's
Yeah.
next? But they love it. We have one client, she's an older woman, but she like goes all over the world and dances, which is
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to hear. We have another set of clients, they take every other month, they take a Viking cruise.
Yeah.
Right. So those are some of the things. And then some of the other crazy expenses we hear sometimes, which are kind of fun to hear. A lot of helping the kids out,
Yeah.
but helping with down payments, helping with college. Those aren't outlandish or crazy.
No.
They're pretty normal, but we have to figure out how do we prioritize all this stuff.
Yep.
And
How does it fit in your plan?
right, the thing I'm trying to say is your goals are completely reasonable
Yes.
as long as you can pay for them.
Mhm.
The only time they become unreasonable is when you can't afford them, and then they become unreasonable goals. So if you can afford it, like, if you want to drive a Ford Raptor that can climb a tree and you can afford it, get after it. But if you can't, then it maybe is an unreasonable kind of goal. So it's important to think about the difference between goals and dreams here. And the other thing we have to factor in is once we've done this, then we have to figure out how do we make our plan as tax efficient as possible, because that's one where people get off base here.
Yeah.
They build their plan. They've accounted hopefully for inflation.
Mhm.
They realize when they're going to do this, they need income that rises over time.
Right?
Now they have to factor in how much am I going to pay in taxes to get this done.
Yeah.
And if you haven't accounted for that, that can be very, very impactful for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Taxes can definitely sneak up on you, and you definitely need to make sure that you have it built into your plan.
Yeah. And remember, if you've been a good saver, so you've saved money in your 401k, your 403b, 457, you have an IOU. Your IOU is to Uncle Sam. And Uncle Sam, he is not a very nice uncle sometimes. He tells you, I like the rich uncle that gives me stuff, not the rich uncle that takes.
Yeah.
But, and I guess, look, I love, we're having a little fun here. I love civilization, so I'm happy to pay
Right.
taxes,
Yes.
right? Like, so I want to be clear. But with that said, we don't want to pay any more than we have to. So we have to figure out, does it make sense to do a Roth conversion?
Right.
Does it make sense to take money out of your traditional IRA or your Roth IRA? Again, what we're trying to figure out is how do you make your determination of, do you have enough?
Right.
Like, how long is your money going to last?
Right.
Once we've figured out, how much you need,
Mhm.
how much you have,
Yep.
what your gap is, how do you plan for that from a tax perspective? There's one big one left, right? That once you've made that, now you've built your plan.
Okay.
So the plan's built.
Right.
Now what do we need to do?
You gotta check on it. You gotta treat it like an annual physical and check on it and make sure that it's fine-tuned. Laws change, taxes change. values change, everything changes. The market changes daily. So it's something that you have to keep a hold on and just make sure that there's no drastic changes being taken or are taking place and that you need to adjust for those.
Because if you don't do that, life's going to sneak up on you.
Yes.
Think about 2020, 21, 22. Did we have some changes in the world?
COVID.
Yeah, COVID. And then what happened after COVID? Inflation like
Right.
crazy. I mean, the United States government took their money cannon and they shot their money cannon all over the country. And that caused, for a lot of people, they think that caused inflation. I don't want to get an argument about this, but I think that's pretty much what caused inflation in a lot of ways. Obviously, supply chain issues played a role in that as well. I'm not going to get political about this, but my opinion, massive printing of money, massive government stimulus caused a lot of excess capital in the economy, which then caused some inflation. Obviously, there was other inflationary causes. I'm going down a rabbit hole because there's somebody out there saying, "No, Jim, it was caused by this." Okay, fine. You win, but the reality is that you needed to account for that in your plan.
Right.
And if you did not adjust your plan with higher inflation, you're in this position where maybe you haven't kept up with inflation. And now you can't afford to take that cruise or give money to the church or the kids or
Right.
things that were really important to you.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. Here's what we find. A lot of people, they think, hey, I'm likely to run out of money. I've only saved $800,000.
Mhm.
And I read this article and it said 1.5 million will last 28 years. And then they do the math and they're like, wait, you're telling me I'm going to be okay? And it's shocking.
Right.
That's why don't fall for these articles. Now there are some things I want you to be aware of that you need to be really, really cautious of.
Yep.
So as you're building your plan, the first thing you need to make sure you don't lose sight of as you're building it is healthcare. Generally speaking, if you're working, healthcare or your healthcare premiums, they're deducted from your payroll. When you retire, make sure you add that to your need.
Right.
And generally speaking, we're going to factor in $500 to $1,000 a month per person to cover healthcare expenses. With Medicare, remember there's a couple things to remember. Your teeth, basically your head. So your teeth, your eyes, your ears are not covered by Medicare. You're going to need to get dental insurance, hearing insurance, and vision that's not covered there. So that can even add more cost to your equation.
Yeah.
So healthcare is a big one. What's another one?
Yeah, so we need to think about spousal needs. So there's a few instances when you definitely need to think about the income stream. So for instance, what if somebody passes away early and then they say you had Social Security turned on and that all of a sudden their monthly income is cut in half.
Yeah.
So we have to think about that. And then what about the couples that have 10-year age gaps? The chances of one of them passing away before the other one is highly likely. You're not going to pass away together. So you have to make sure that your plan is built income-wise to sustain both of you and whoever is remaining.
Yeah. That one is so important, but
Mhm.
so overlooked.
It is.
I think one of the scary things that we recently uncovered was we met with a woman, a lovely lady. She had a financial planner, and her financial planner, her and her husband, they never accounted for the fact that her husband might predecease her. And then what happened was her husband did predecease her way earlier than they had wanted to. And now her whole retirement's changed.
Yeah.
The numbers are all different. Everything's different. Well, that she never saw what would happen if her husband had passed away at 75 as opposed to 93, which is what the other planner planned on.
Right.
We like to break it. And the reason I like to break it is
Someone
because
likes to kill people off.
life is unpredictable.
Yeah.
I don't want my wife to be in a position where if I'm no longer here, she can't put the kids through college. She can't have a great life herself. Like
Right.
I want to make sure they're okay. We want to do that for our couples as well. So I think that's really important. And here's the other one, long-term care. This is a scary one.
It is. It
Mm,
can definitely be very scary.
I mean, memory care right now is what, like $10,000, $9,000 a month?
8 to 10, yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculously expensive. That can wreck a retirement. I was at a conference years ago, and they had this couple came on stage, and they had a guy, he was like 50 years old, a pretty young guy, and his wife with him, and he was up there, he had early onset dementia. He was forgetting everything at 50. It was so painful to watch because I think everybody there saw themselves in that situation
Yeah.
or saw their brother or their spouse
Loved one,
or
yeah.
somebody they knew who was that age and said, "I can't imagine." And the problem is that oftentimes people fail to plan for this, and they fail to put this into their plan,
Yeah.
and that can derail those numbers.
Yeah.
So it's just important that you factor it in.
Yeah.
When we go through our smart wealth system, we go through milestones. So milestone number one is ensuring that you have an income plan and your investments in the right place. Milestone number two is you have a tax plan. Milestone number three is security. We're going to talk about long-term care. We're going to talk about insurances. Milestone number four is your health care. And then milestone number five is your legacy plan.
Yeah.
That's what a full-blown financial plan looks like. You have to tie all of this stuff together
Yeah.
because it has a really profound impact. Casey, I've got a couple questions for you that I think listeners may have asked. So I'm excited about today. And number one, I think people out there, I think we've done a good job at this, but I think people out there will say, hey, I've only saved $900,000. Do you think I can retire? Or can I even retire with 900,000? Or do I need to keep working until I get to 1 million?
So it's a very loaded question because it's gonna depend. It's gonna depend on what you need, what your standard of living needs to be, and what your goals are.
Yeah. So it really comes down to building a financial plan to
Absolutely.
understand. So again, it's so different for each individual out there. But the
Mhm.
answer is absolutely you should be able to retire at $900,000. But your standard of living, your age, your spouse's age, if you're married, all of those play a factor into it for sure. Like they're going to drive a lot of that. Look, if you want to spend $15,000 a month, 900 grand ain't going to go so far. Just
Yeah.
divide that number by that number and you'll come to the conclusion real quick.
Yeah.
That won't work. But if you have a good pension, if you have a nice social security, if you're not spending a significant amount over those, yeah, it
Mhm.
could work. It could
Mhm.
work. Casey, here's the other one. If I don't have a financial plan or my financial planner has not went through and built and talked about any of this stuff, am I working with the right person?
So in my opinion, no. I believe that a good financial planner should not only handle your investments, but manage your entire financial plan. So all of these pieces don't just float out into the world by themselves. They need to connect like a puzzle because how do you know that this piece is correct if this piece hasn't been managed? A good financial planner, I think, should know you as a person well enough to know your entire situation and use those investments as a tool to provide the life that you're wanting.
I agree.
So,
Think about going to your doctor. We both use the same doctor, Dr. G. We love Dr. G,
love
great
Dr.
guy,
G.
smart as a whip, which is why I like and thorough.
He is.
Okay. If Dr. G never gave us a physical,
Mhm.
I mean, we don't go together, but clearly. But if Dr. G did not give physicals out, would you even trust him?
No. Why would you?
I know.
It's
But
like a basic of a doctor.
I know, but how many people out there work with a financial planner, a financial advisor, and don't have a financial plan?
I think it's kinda sad too because a lot of people don't realize that there are advisors that offer planning as well, and that the advisors just handle the investment management and the planning's to be handled elsewhere. So, you really need to find that right person that does the holistic planning approach for you.
Casey, and here's what I often see, people blame themselves for it. Like, they actually say to themselves, "Well, Jim, 6 years ago, Bobby suggested that I get a financial plan. My doctor doesn't require me to get a physical,
Yeah.
but it's part of the annual process,
Right.
and it should be when you work with a planner, and if you do this on your own, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But every year you need to update this thing.
Yes.
When people come into our office or we get on Zoom with them, when if they're assuming they're a client, we have their financial plan right on the screen
We do.
because we want to update this in real time
Yeah.
with them there as they're watching because we want to make sure that it's a living, breathing document
Yeah.
that we adjust. So look, again, we don't want to throw any articles under the bus. I think they're fun to read. I still read these things. I know they're clickbaity, but at the end of the day, don't get an emotional response to anything out there around that. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's good. There's literally nothing wrong with it. But have a custom plan because that's going to tell you how long your money should last
Right.
based upon your unique lifestyle situations. Casey, any final thoughts as we kind of wrap up today's show?
I would like to wrap it up with what you like to tell me a lot. You can have anything you want, but you can't have everything.
And remember that as you're building your plan out. With that said, if you want to reach out to us, you can certainly do that. That is one thing that you can have. martinwealth.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to us on the podcast, do me a quick favor, leave a 5-star review, hit like and subscribe. From Casey and myself, we'll be back next week. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of the podcast. Opinions voiced in this podcast are provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will achieve its objectives. Information provided is not intended as tax or legal advice. You are encouraged to seek tax or legal advice from an independent professional. We are not affiliated with Social Security or any governmental agency. New River Financial Group, LLC is a registered investment advisor offering advisory services in the state of Virginia and other jurisdictions where exempted. New River Financial Group, LLC, doing business as Martin Wealth Solutions. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. No investment strategy can guarantee a profit or protect against loss in periods of declining value.